Welcome, everybody.
We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.
I am Andrew Pasquini.
We're working. That's it. We're working over here. That's it. Let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners. Sprint Ride Option Podcast. We are live. It's a new episode of the Sprint Ride Option Podcast. I am Andrew Pasquini, joined as always by Jason Aponte. We didn't plan this throwback thing. I got a throwback hat. He's got the cool 8-bit Niners throwback helmet. It's a victory Monday here on the Sprint Ride Option Podcast. Jason, the Mets are eliminated. The Niners won. We're feeling good right now, huh?
No, don't really care about the Mets. But, that is the classic case for everybody who likes to throw dirt on the Yankees' name. It's the classic case of the Mets metting. And I hope that whoever is baseball related that wants to hurl shots at me as a Yankee fan, the Mets have a better record than you. It never ends out that way, unfortunately. And I've seen this story a million times. While you're here, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell for when we go live. It is a Victory Monday, though, Andrew Pasquini, and that pinwheel hat is cooking right now.
We made the debut. We debuted it. We didn't get a chance to debut it last week because we waited a day. We had Kyle on. We had Kyle Matson on, obviously, and I didn't want to wear it for that because, semi-professional. But, hey, when it's just Andrew and Jason, we wear whatever we want.
Don't need to be professional when I'm around.
Yes, exactly. I just got to look good for Jason. Niners defeated the Carolina Panthers 37-15, and there's a lot of talking points. I really thought that this was one of the better Niners games we've seen this season. Obviously, Carolina's not great, but I think that's part of the story. Is the Niners dominating a team they should have dominated. In my mind, that's what makes a good team good. I think it's what separates good teams from bad teams is taking care of business when you need to. Let's start. I'm lifting the ban. Let's start with James Richard Garoppolo. 2 touchdowns on the day, 253 yards. Very good, pretty good. And I'm not going to say very good. He had a couple mistakes. I will say this, and I haven't said this term in a while, only one no throw. And that was the one in the first quarter that was nearly picked, the Deebo Samuel. Outside of that, I thought Jimmy Garoppolo played well.
I would take it a step further. I think Jimmy Garoppolo played very well. And here's what I have to say to the people that want to tell me about dropped interceptions, whatever it is. I implore you to watch more football. Because if you took a shot for every time a quarterback had a dropped interception, you'd be done by halfway through the second game. Seriously. Mm-hmm. And that's across the league. Literally. Mm-hmm. You can make that case for everybody. But in the same lane, you want to play that game? Let's play this game. Kittle fumbled. Mm-hmm. Deebo dropped a pass. Mm-hmm. Ayuk dropped a pass. Mm-hmm. Why is that never a factor into when you say this? Look, I'm not the most pro Jimmy Garoppolo guy. I think we all know that. But if you can't fix your mouth to say that he played well yesterday, you have a bigger problem than him playing well. I really don't know what – you don't have to change your outlook. You don't have to look around and say, well, maybe I misevaluated. No. You evaluated Jimmy Garoppolo properly. Why can't you just say he played well? Why can't you just say he played well? Why are those words so hard for you to say out of your mouth? Is it because you built your brand and your identity with hating Jimmy Garoppolo and you can't do that? Maybe. Or are you completely delusional to his play? Jimmy Garoppolo played very well. What's the harm in saying, hey, you know what? Jimmy Garoppolo played very well on Sunday. It doesn't have to change anything.
It's not. No, because this is we talked about the Jimmy Garoppolo experience against the Denver Broncos, right? We were like, hey, that'll happen. Hey, this will happen as well, where he looks good. And the craziest part about this, the craziest thing in my head is 18 for 30, 253, 2 touchdowns. That's not, big numbers in today's NFL. It's good numbers. And that's the crazy thing is you see how easily the Niners took care of the Carolina Panthers with just a very good game from Jimmy Garoppolo. If Jimmy Garoppolo gives you 250, 2 touchdowns, and no turnovers, you are winning significantly more games than you are losing. And that's all it is. Like, we are not asking for James Garoppolo to go for 350, put up Patrick Mahomes numbers like he's going to do against the Raiders tonight. I haven't even looked. I don't know how he's doing already. But
the game's on.
The game's already on, so I don't know if Mahomes is throwing a pick or anything yet. But you know what I mean, right? We don't need anything special from Jimmy Garoppolo to dominate teams. And before anybody says, oh, but it's the Panthers, Andrew, what are you talking about? 250 from 2 touchdowns, as I said, is not a big ask. I guarantee you there is 32 defenses that you can get 250, 2 touchdowns and no interceptions on a semi-consistent basis. And if the Niners can get that from Garoppolo, they're going to go very far this season. And it's not a big ask.
If the 49ers get that sort of performance week in and week out, and look, there's going to be games where, yeah, I saw that Devontae Adams 42-yard touchdown from Derek Carr. Oops, 7-0. Well, here we go.
That's good. I like that.
If you get those sort of performances from Jimmy Garoppolo, this team becomes an incredibly hard out in the playoffs. And look, I got a lot of replies to my tweet that Jimmy Garoppolo is playing very well, and you'd be surprised at how many people you if you ever want any sort of real engagement on Twitter, say something nice. Say something nice about Jimmy Garoppolo, and say something mean about Jimmy Garoppolo, and one way or another, you're gonna have interaction.
Oh yeah.
But I got a lot of people saying, "Well, who cares? It was Carolina. What's gonna happen in the playoffs?" Have you ever heard of the old adage, we'll cross that bridge when we get there?
Yes.
Let's get there. Why can't it be a week-to-week evaluation? And what's so hard with saying Jimmy Garoppolo played very well against the Carolina Panthers? And he did. And again, don't tell me about drop picks. Don't tell me about drop picks if you're not going to tell me about the drop passes.
Yes.
Because George Kittle would have had more yards on the fumble. Deebo Samuel on an easy pitch and catch would have had more numbers. Brandon Ayuk needs to catch that pass on that back shoulder. Those would have been bigger numbers. So don't tell me about drop picks and not tell me about the drop completions. Guys, calm down. It's okay.
Yes.
Jimmy Garoppolo had a good game. It's okay. It's okay.
And I mentioned the no throw thing that we mentioned last year quite a bit. Jimmy had more, I don't know what the official definition of big time throws are, but he had 2 great throws that were dropped. You mentioned the Ayuk, the back shoulder one, kind of like week 2. And then the Deebo one, Jimmy put that in the spot where only Deebo can get it. Deebo got it on the end of the hands, and it was a drop. Jimmy had 2 very good throws that were dropped. And Joey, I see you. I don't know how you want to define 3 straight games, because technically within a regular season, he has not gone 3 straight games. But if you go week 17 against the Seahawks in 2019, week 1 and week 2, 2020, no interceptions in those 3 consecutive games. So technically he's gone 3 regular season games without an interception. But it's kind of like, you know how at the start of the baseball season, when the guy has the hit streak that carries over from the regular season the year before, it doesn't really feel like it counts. So that thing, yeah, sure, we'll say he has not gone 3 straight games without an interception. So that's something to watch for against the Atlanta Falcons, who don't have Deion Jones anymore. But we're not here to talk about the Falcons. That's a Friday conversation. What was most impressive with Jimmy Garoppolo as well, 8 for 9, 118 yards and a touchdown on 3rd downs. And that's insane. 7 first downs on it as well. He had a 5-yard pass to George Kittle before the blocked field goal. That was the only pass he had, or one of 2 passes he had that didn't result in the first down on 3rd downs.
And be clear. I want to simplify this for every 49er fan out there. This is how easy life can be with Jimmy Garoppolo as your quarterback. Ready? This is going to be very easy. And I want you to come close, because I'm gonna whisper it.
I got it.
When he plays well, say he played well. When he doesn't play well, say he didn't play well.
Yeah.
It's super easy, guys. I promise you. It doesn't get any easier than that. It doesn't have to be, well, what's he going to do in the playoffs? Week to week. If he plays well, say he played well. If he doesn't play well, say he played poorly. It's life can be easy when you simplify it. That's all. That's it. I don't understand why it needs to be this complicated. So yes, Jimmy Garoppolo played very well. Get in your feelings about it. Cry to yourself. Look at yourself in the mirror. He played very well. No, argue with the wall. The wall's the only person that's actually going to argue with you. I'm not going to. Because if you didn't see that Jimmy Garoppolo played well, that is a YOU problem.
Pretty much it. Yeah, that's what it is. And there's always these caveats of when he has a good game. Oh, he played the Panthers. Oh, this. The fact of the matter is Jimmy Garoppolo played well. The Niners won a game. What else can you ask for? And that's really where I'm going to leave it. Jimmy Garoppolo played well. Very happy about it. Niners are 3-2, first place in the NFC West. I don't think there needs to be more of a conversation. Now, if he goes into Atlanta, throws 2 interceptions, this conversation will be different next Monday, Jason. And that's what it is, because this is a week-to-week league. What have you done recently for me? Yesterday, Jimmy Garoppolo looked really good. And that's what it is. We're going to talk about it as it is. So we good on the James talk? 10 minutes of Jimmy. We on to the next one. We good? Jimmy Garoppolo was good. Congratulations. We got it. Let's go to the run game now, because I thought the run game was very well. I don't know if we're going to go in order of positions. Maybe that's what we're doing today. I don't know. The run game was very, very good. Jeff Wilson had the first 100-yard game for a Niners running back in the regular season since last year. And your good old friend. I don't know if you saw my tweet yesterday, Jason.
I don't know.
But Tevin Coleman cooking while wearing Jerick McKinnon's old number, it's a vibe. It's amazing. I love it.
The question I have for you, Andrew Pasquini, and I have for the football world.
Yes.
What did the Carolina Panthers do to upset Tevin Coleman?
I know, right?
Because he is a Carolina Panthers menace. Look, 4 touchdowns 2019. We know that, right? Gerald McCoy wanted all the smoke. Yeah, choked. Okay, there was no Gerald McCoy this time. So I hear the dog.
You hear the dog? Yeah, I muted myself. I'm trying to.
So we talked about Tevin Coleman, and the dog starts barking. No coincidence. The dog in Tevin Coleman is too big. 2 touchdowns from Tevin Coleman. But you know what? Those aren't even the most impressive plays. And let's go back to James Garoppolo. The best throw that Jimmy Garoppolo had in this game was against a cover 0 blitz, where that man stood in the pocket, gave him a shot, threw it up, and Tevin Coleman channeled his inner Randall Moss.
I like this formal first name thing we're doing today.
Oh, it's Randall. It's Randall. It's not Randy.
James and Randall.
James and Randall. Jumped up, brings in the reception. I don't know what the Carolina Panthers have done to besmirch Tevin Coleman's name in some way. That's a William Regal. I saw your text earlier. Got it. But I don't know what it is about Tevin Coleman against the Carolina Panthers that makes him so elite, man. It was so good to see him playing so well, man. And I think a lot of people, there was a lot of talk about apologies being owed to people. People need to apologize to Tevin Coleman, man. Yeah. Ooh, baby, because y'all wanted him out of here.
Well,
y'all wanted him out of here.
I went back and looked at it after his first quarter touchdown, the receiving one. It was his first touchdown since 2019. Remember the Sunday night game where the Niners dolly-whopped the Green Bay Packers? And then it was his which one did they dolly-whop the Packers? And there's a lot of them, Andrew. The 2019 one at Sunday Night Football. But it was his first receiving touchdown since 2019 against the Carolina Panthers. So, yeah, he definitely has the Carolina Panthers number. And speaking of the Carolina Panthers, Raw Thomas, thank you for the donation. Can we get C-Mac? Should we make the trade at all? Salary cap wise, I think they can make it work because of the Jimmy Garoppolo restructure.
But they won't. The Carolina is not. They're not this.
Yeah, this is what I love about like sports in general. It's funny to me. Quality touch, Yankees. It's funny to me because the only rumor I saw come out about any Christian McCaffrey stuff, it wasn't that the Panthers were shopping him. It was the Bills called in on him. That doesn't mean he's available. Let me remind Jason Aponte, Atlanta's good.
I'm sorry. I actually want to amend what I said about the Atlanta Falcons. I'll be in Atlanta. I'm leaving Friday for the game. I'll be out there. So shout out to anybody that's going to be out there. If you see me out there, say what's up or tell me I'm terrible, whatever it is. But I want to say this, Avatar. I did overlook them a bit, but if the Atlanta Falcons play poorly for 3 quarters in the way that they did against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against this 49ers team, even with the injuries, the game won't be close enough for them to come back in. No. So I will apologize formally to you for saying that the 49ers are going to dog walk them. But if the Atlanta Falcons believe that they are going to play the same sort of game that they did against the Tampa Bay Bucs for 3 quarters and hang around against this 49ers team, by the end of that 3rd quarter, Sure, they'll have a furious comeback. Marcus Mariota is going to go down the field with 2 minutes left. He's going to score a touchdown with 3 seconds on the clock to make the game 31-12.
Is that your prediction?
Somewhere, yeah. They're not that good, man. They're not that. They're not that good, man. But at the same time, I do want to apologize to you because they did play very well. Yeah, I need to remind you, Atlanta against Tampa Bay, divisional games are weird. They're weird like that. Atlanta's not like that, man. They can bench Nick Bosa in this game and still win that game. So, but I still wanted to make sure. I came on here wanting to tell you, sorry, but yes, yeah. See, he said thanks.
So back to the McCaffrey thing. I don't think the Niners also have the draft capital to make it happen as well. That's going to be a tricky spin. And also with how injured he is, the future contract doesn't look great. So I would be iffy at best on a McCaffrey trade, but I save it where if the Niners somehow trade for Christian McCaffrey, I am coming on this podcast electric as hell that the Niners did it. Josh, shout out Josh. We'll play video games tonight. Josh, all-time matchup, Pitts versus Kits. Is Pitts playing? Because I know he didn't play yesterday.
I doubt it. If it's a hamstring injury, I doubt he's going to play. And who cares? Even when he played, Arthur Smith didn't want to use him anyway. So who cares? I mean, Arthur Smith's like, hey, we got this generational tight end. You know what? Let's not even use. You know what? The best thing to do is to not run him on routes. Let's leave him in a block.
Sounds like an alleged thing Niners fans like to talk about. Kyle Shanahan.
Let's talk about it. I mean, my prediction. My prediction didn't come through.
Are we going to transition here to receivers and pass catchers now, Jason? Let's talk about it. George Kittle, I said it in my article. I wrote 5 players to watch on offense, and it was George Kittle was one of them because this conversation about his targets always seems to come up once every so often. And it seems like they get very loud, and then he has a game where it's like 8 receptions, 110 yards, a touchdown, and it's like, okay, cool, we're back. Yesterday had that feel. 4 targets in the first 2 drives. They were going to him often. He fumbles. He loses the ball. Carolina picks up the ball. You could see Kyle Shanahan have the reaction. From that point, after the first 2 drives, Kittle only saw 2 targets in the remainder of the first quarter. Avatar, thank you. Hit those likes, people. We love like buttons. He had 2 targets after the fumble. So he had 6 targets in the first half, technically 7. One was called back on the McGlinchey ineligible man downfield, which was Garoppolo's fault. He held the ball too long before we yell at McGlinchey, guys.
You Garoppolo hater. I'm tired.
You Garoppolo hater. It's my brand. It's my only brand, sadly. But he had a false start in the second half. 6 targets in the first half, none in the second half. I'm leaning on it wasn't a good game for George Kittle just because of the fumble. And it obviously, we know Kyle Shanahan. The example I always go back to is 2019 when Matt Breida was the best running back on this team. He had 2 fumbles in the Atlanta game, and then we didn't see him again. We saw a little bit of that yesterday. The fumble happens, and Kittle seemed to be gone.
All right. I do agree with the Matt Breida portion about the fumbles. Yes. But that circle of trust that Kyle has, which has gotten Tevin Coleman back into this running back rotation. So I don't think that it was necessarily a punishment, but I do want to say that I did think that watching the game back, because the film's up and we've been able to watch it, Kittle is getting open. He's doing his thing. So whatever, remember I told you, write it down, George Kittle touchdown. Well, scribble that out. Take that and write it out. Yeah, write it out. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, scribble that out. But next week, put it in concrete. George Kittle scores again. I don't think that necessarily it was anything about that more than it was the 49ers actually had the running game going, and George Kittle was incredible. Like no, don't write it down again. I just come on. Yeah, just
Kittle touchdown Carolina.
No, just cut it out.
Scratch it out. Yeah, scratch it.
But George Kittle was very good in the run game, and he had a block that sprung the Jeff Wilson 41-yard on the first drive, and he's celebrating like right off the bat, like he knows, like and again, obviously that's before the fumble or anything like that. I don't think that there was anything like that. So, but yes, I do think that it's coming. It's getting close. I think that here's the thing. Write it down. George Kittle equal incredible. You got it, Josh. Here's the thing. I do think that this offense is very close to busting it open. And what I mean by that is being completely efficient and hitting those plays and all of those things. Like, they're very close. Like, when you look back at this game, there was a fumble, there was 2 punts, and there was a blocked field goal. This offense largely operated in the way that you want this offense to operate in. So I'm not as concerned. And yeah, sure, chalk it up. Look, I was told, calm down, it's a trap game. I was told, don't overlook the Panthers. Look, the Panthers stink.
We're podcasters. We can overlook them.
The Panthers stink. But if you're looking for reps, right?
Yeah.
You're looking from the Denver game and you're going game by game. They're stacking good performance after good performance, and they're getting better, right? Okay. Now, sure, opponent has something to do with that. But if you're able to roll this offense with 3 straight weeks of successful, showings against the Chiefs, you're going to need it. You're going to need it against the Chiefs in 2 weeks. And I don't want to overlook the Falcons. That's a Friday conversation. But right now, this offense is moving in the right direction, trending in the right direction. That's all that matters, trending in the right direction. And as of right now, I don't know of a team, and this is a question that I'll pose to you, Andrew Pasquini. I don't know of a team that is considered a contender that has so many things on the way coming back, reinforcements in that way that you can really speak about. Like, the Eagles are 5-0. Shout out to them. They deserve it. The Cardinals
second best team in the NFC.
The Cardinals stink.
Yes.
Okay, guys. Oh, wait a minute. Did Dallas beat the Rams? Oh, wait. Sure they did, because the Rams aren't that good right now. Everything is coming. All that stuff about, hey, they bought a Super Bowl. They did. They won, but now the Bills here. Okay. Now you can't fill out the roster. Cool. Other than that, the Packers losing in London. The Tampa Bay Bucks struggling with the Atlanta Falcons. Where's the competition in the NFC at this point? So when you think about the 49ers, you're thinking about them trending in the right direction, getting Trent Williams back soon. Not this week, next week. Getting possibly Jimmy Ward back, broken hand. I know we're going to talk about that, back soon. Many reinforcements are coming for this 49ers team. So when people tell you, oh shit, the 49ers are an NFC contender, it's more about what they've put on film already with this defense. And shout out to Emmanuel Mosley. We'll talk about that as well, too, man. I'm gutted for that young man.
Yep.
But there's reinforcements coming.
Yes.
And that's how deep this team is. It's wide open. And people didn't like it when I said the NFC's wide open. And they're like, well, Jimmy Garoppolo. It's like, you're focused on the wrong things. The NFC is wide open. It is wide open. Wide open. Do you believe that the Eagles are going to steamroll their way to the NFC Championship game? I don't think so. I'll tell you this. Who's the second team I'm worried about besides the Eagles right now? The Dallas Cowboys have not lost a game without Dak Prescott. Oh, goodness. Goodness, that defense is good.
Season.
Oh, goodness, that defense is good. Oh, goodness. So, yeah, it's wide open. It is wide open for this team right now. And the 49ers, when they play their game, are an incredibly tough out. That's it. And if Jimmy Garoppolo can roll into the playoffs, and I know we're thinking way too far down the line, healthy, no shoulder, no thumb, what are we talking about?
I'll say this. It's week 5. I guarantee you the Niners are making the playoffs. I'll get that.
Yes. Done and done.
Yes, done and done. And like, even too, you mentioned Jimmy Ward and Trent Williams, coming back ideally within the next couple of weeks. Even like the second tier of guys, Elijah Mitchell, he's already been gone a month. We're a month away.
About that.
We're ideally
Azeez
a month away.
Will be back.
Azeez Al-Shaair will be back. There's a lot of players coming back from this team, and they looked impressive yesterday, but they're keeping their head very well above. This isn't even like they're barely keeping their head above water. They're in the middle of the ocean right now, and they're still swimming. Even with these, I thought the Trent Williams injury was going to be a huge loss for the Niners. And yeah, the offensive line, maybe not the greatest the past couple weeks. They've been fine though. It hasn't hurt. And I guess this is our transition to the offensive line. I like this, going in order of the positions thing. I like this. The offensive line, man, it was fine yesterday. Yeah, Brian Burns got his. Other than that, like, yeah, 10 pressures, only 2 sacks, nothing horrible. Jalen Moore led the team with 3 pressures allowed. Mike McGlinchey had 3, but they're both dealing with Brian Burns, a top end edge rusher in the league. He's going to get his. Aaron Banks, 2 pressures, and then Spencer Burford, 1 pressure. And actually, Jason, I wanted to ask you this question because you might know this better than I do, and I'm very curious what your thoughts. The right guard rotation.
What is going on?
Between Burford and Brunskill, it's a very solid rotation. It's not even a when one messes up, we bring the other in. It's literally like 2 drives here. I think I wrote down, what was it? Brunskill came in the 3rd drive, I think, yesterday. Yeah, and then Burford came back in at the end of the 2nd. So it seems like this weird rotation is working. Do you think like it's sustainable for the foreseeable future? Because I don't follow other teams as much as I should, and I can't rack my brain to think of a team that's had a rotational P. Like they're rotating it like the right guard's a receiver or a running back, like getting guys in and out. I don't know. Like, is it sustainable?
I don't know. Good question, Andrew.
Yeah.
I want to normalize saying I don't know.
Yes, we've tried to do that on the podcast.
Yeah, when I don't know, and I have no idea what they're doing at this point.
Yeah.
Because Burford didn't do anything particularly egregious. I felt that if you were gonna single out linemen, he would be least on my list. I mean, I want to say shout out to Jake Brendel more than anything. I think he's done very well considering. And you can say whatever it is that you want about. And I've seen people. I don't know if this team is good. They've played this team. The schedule is what the schedule is, and that's it, right? And when you look at the way that this team is played, left tackle, look, anything other than Trent Williams is a downgrade. Anything,
yes.
Right?
Yes.
But at the same time, I don't know if that's sustainable. And I don't know if there's many teams that employ that sort of discussion. I think what it means is there is a certain level of confidence in Daniel Brunskill. At the same time, how is Spencer Burford supposed to grow without going through bumps and bruises? But can you allow those bumps and bruises when you have a team? Right now, this 49ers team has completely pivoted away from what we thought it was going to be in the season, which was trying to figure out what Trey Lance was and what the ceiling is. Now it's go win the fucking thing. Go win it. Like it's literally that, right? So I don't know if you have time for that on the offensive line, but at the same time, I'm just going to say I don't know if it's sustainable because I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know what they're doing, but I don't want to bash them for it. I have a hard time getting behind something when a guy needs reps, constant reps, right? Like in that way. But hey, in Kyle we trust, man. Like right now, after that Denver game, if you were to look back at the comments and the people and what they were saying, you would have thought this team was completely cooked. It's funny how a few weeks changes everybody's perception when you start to look around and the offense starts to pick it up a little bit. So yeah, I think it's a very interesting conversation. But I did see Daniel Brunskill on the field, and I'm like, what are you doing there? Who are you in there for on certain plays? But yeah, I don't know if it's sustainable. I really don't.
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, obviously, we're not ones to question Kyle Shanahan. You guys know we are very pro Kyle Shanahan, and I like to believe that if he's doing it, there's a rhyme, reason, he believes what he's doing. But yeah, it's very interesting because I can't think of any other time I've seen a rotational offensive lineman. Like we see rotation, offensive line and quarterback are like the 2 positions you never see rotations in. And the Niners are doing it like it's just this normal concept. It's not like as I said, it's not like hey, this guy stinks right now, so we're making the switch. It's Aztec. You have opinions. That's okay.
Aztec, real quick. Kyle is like 36-24, I believe, since the damned first season that he took over. I mean, and they've got 2 NFC Championship appearances, 1 Super Bowl appearance. I know that we're a pro Kyle, pod, but come on, man.
He's still a top 5 head coach. I don't
come on. Like, yo, look, if the 49ers woke up today, right? Let's just put this out there. If the 49ers walked out there today and Jed York said, we're firing Kyle Shanahan. Mm-hmm. how many coaches would fire? How many teams would fire their head coach immediately to bring in Kyle Shanahan mid-season?
25.
Good point, Andrew. Good point.
25. Gray Fox, thank you for the donation. Thoughts on trading for CMC? We touched on this a little bit. Once again, I think the big thing is you mentioned at the end, yes, I know he's injury prone. And with the money he has due to him, and I'll look it up just to make sure I get the right numbers here, it's hard to justify.
It only saves the Panthers $3 million.
Yes, and the Niners would have to take on, I don't know how to spell McCaffrey, apparently. I apologize. It's a lot of money because it's loaded. We're getting there. This is me looking things up live on the Sprint Right Option podcast. After this year, he does have a potential out. His cap hit the next 2 years. If he does, or next 3 years, there's going to be $19 million next 2 years. It's a lot of money for a player you can't guarantee to be on the field. Yes, is he electric? Absolutely.
Casey's getting worked?
Casey's getting worked right now. It's I would say no, but once again, as I said, if you tell me tomorrow the Niners trade for Christian McCaffrey, I am coming on this podcast and I'm celebrating, right? It's one of those things where right now, no, but if it happens, I'm all for it. So before we make the transition to the defense, because apparently we're doing this in order of positions, and I like that. I think this is very good. It only took us 2 years to find a very solid thing to do, and I love it. Sprint Right Option podcast. Subscribe to this YouTube channel if you have not already. I've seen a few new names in the chat. So if you do,
said nude,
yeah, I've seen a few nude names, a few new names, all that stuff. R.A. Thomas, thank you for donation. Trust JV to fill the void, or DJ or other DBs. We'll get to the cornerbacks here in a minute. Thank you for the donation. We'll absolutely address that question. If you can't watch us live on YouTube, go find the Sprint Right Option podcast anywhere you get your podcasts. That's the advertisements I got. Jason, I think it's an objectively good thing that in a game where top 3 edge rusher Nick Bosa only gets 1 pressure and leaves the game at halftime because of a groin injury, you still get 20 pressures. Charles Omenihu, 5 pressures. Drake Jackson, Samson Ebukam, 3 pressures each. The defensive line depth is stupid. Baker Mayfield was running for his life. The Niners must. I didn't pay attention. I've watched a little bit of the tape. They haven't gotten too much of a chance to watch it. Did Baker Mayfield think hands were going up all the time? Because I swear to God, he pump faked every pass. He was very unsure of where he was going. I know him getting the balls knocked down at the line. That's a big issue with him. But Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles got a sack yesterday. How electric is that? Yeah. I think that was off of Walker at the end of the game after Mayfield left. This defensive line just shows how deep it is when you don't have Nick Bosa for a whole second half and they're still getting to the quarterback consistently.
And I think that's the conversation that we had earlier on in the season when we talked about how special this defense is, because people want to say, well, is it better than 2019? Is it better than 2012? Okay. You're not going to match the front 4 that is starting for the 2019 team. Armstead, Buckner, Bosa, Ford. You're not going to match that. What this team has is the depth, and that's what made us so excited. So when I went on 95.7 The Game and I talked on the Morning Roast, I said this defense is better. It was for 2 reasons. The depth, 3 reasons. The depth on the defensive line. The depth in the cornerback room, which is something that the 49ers have not had in a long time. And shout out to Emmanuel Mosley, man. I hope you get better, man. But, Jason Verrett being the first option, Kyle Madsen said this on our last podcast. Jason Verrett being the first option off the bench isn't necessarily bad. But, and then you throw in D'Amico Ryans. I mean, this defense is going to keep you in every single game. Everything about this team and their success is going to predicate on the offense. How much can you put out there on the offense? Everything that we know about this team is true. The defensive line is incredible. D'Amico Ryans is incredible. Shout out to him, and I can't wait to root for him wherever it is that he goes, as long as it's not a divisional rival. But at the same time, when you look at Nick Bosa not playing in this game and how they were able to generate pressure, I wrote on Niners Nation, Charles Omenihu, Samson Ebukam. A lot of people want a Samson Ebukam cut. Don't know where that came from because I think people were just trying to get rid of money. Like all of a sudden, it doesn't make sense. But this defense, this team is loaded in ways that people don't understand to the point that they can get by with certain injuries. You're not going to get you're not going to say that you want injuries or anything like that. Obviously, clearly, right? But
yes,
you can sustain yourself going forward because of the depth, because of the scheme, because of coverage. I saw coverage sack yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
A coverage sack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, unbelievable. A coverage sack for the San Francisco 49ers. There was a coverage sack because there was nowhere to throw the ball. And you know what? The Panthers offensive line did a great job blocking it up, but there's nowhere to throw the ball, and you end up with a sack. Those are the things that makes this defense so special. And sure, the Panthers scored one touchdown out of the half. Cool. But this is largely what you're going to see going forward, barring more injuries, which we don't have any control over. Yeah. But right now, come on. And Ariel brought up two cover sacks. I'm sure there were two cover sacks. And that's the thing is Baker pumps because he's like, oh shit, there's a guy there. And then he looks this way and he's like, oh shit, there's a guy there. And your offensive line is blocking it up, but 5 seconds is way too long for anybody to block in the offense in this league. So yeah, this defense is special, man. It really is, man. It really is special.
And before we get too deep on the secondary, because I do have thoughts on the secondary, very, very good thoughts, because one cornerback had both of them had a pretty good game. I owe an apology. I feel like we've been apologizing to some defensive players. We've had a few apologies to Talanoa Hufanga. I think we owe an apology to Dre Greenlaw. He's been playing pretty good. He's racking up the tackles.
Is that a curb?
Yes. Oh, is it a curb reference? No, I did accidentally make one.
Is. No. Pretty good.
Yeah. Then yes, it was, Jason. Just to appease Jason. Yes, it was. 11 more tackles yesterday. Fred Warner as well had 9 tackles. The linebackers were very good. And I think the number I had, because the third downs, Carolina went 3 for 15. They targeted Christian McCaffrey. He had 7 touches on 13 or 15 of the attempts. Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw combined for 6 of their 20 tackles on third downs. So like it's the linebackers are very good. And like when Azeez Al-Shaair comes back, I do think this is a pivot. You ready for this? I think Dre Greenlaw is going to get majority of the snaps because he has played well. But now, like with what Greenlaw is and what we know Azeez Al-Shaair is and all pro Fred, this is the best linebacking core in the NFL. Yeah. I'm going to go that far. I'm going to officially say it because I've been skittish on saying it last year because of what Greenlaw kind of up and down he's been. He's had outside of week 1 because he did have a poor week 1. We talked about it. He's had 4 really good games. He leads the Niners in tackles by I think he's still like 15. Like he's been all over the place on defense. So I owe an apology to Dre Greenlaw.
I owe an apology as well, too, man. Dre Greenlaw, thank you, man. I appreciate you for controlling your aggression and playing much better. Nothing more needs to be said. And yes, I do agree with you. We are a pro Azeez Al-Shaair podcast. But Azeez will come back, and it depends on the personnel, the opponent.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The base defense is not going to be 3 linebackers at this point, especially if Jimmy Ward. If Jimmy Ward, this is the best part, and this is what should have you excited for, Niners fans. Jimmy Ward's ready to go and play. Mm-hmm. Jimmy Ward essentially slides down into your nickel and becomes your everything man, right? Like, and you still keep Gibson, you still keep Hufanga. Yeah, unfortunately, Dre Greenlaw has proved himself, and yes, he deserves it all, and he deserves all of the praise right now. He has been incredible. He deserves all of the praise from anybody, and he deserves my apology as well too. Way to hoop it, and way to control that aggression more than anything. That's all we wanted. Just control the aggression, dude. Like control it. Like we love. we love the fire, but like chill out. Like, like put it in a good spot. He's been incredible, man. There's nothing less to be said about him.
The Spirit Red Option podcast, where Jason and Andrew wish for nothing more to say they are wrong on certain things. And this is one of them, and we're happy about it.
Hell yeah.
All right, secondary, last little bit. You mentioned Jimmy Ward, and before we get a bunch of people saying, oh, why is Jimmy Ward playing on special teams? He's been last year. He played on the kickoff team 10 of 16 starts. That's just what he does, so let's not worry about that. I'm going to throw out a spoiler, Jason. I'm going to tell you who my number one star is. And it was Mooney Ward. Mooney Ward was phenomenal yesterday. He only allowed, I believe, one reception off the top of my head. I don't know what PFF credited him for, so I could be wrong. He was targeted 7 times, 2 receptions for 32 yards. He had the one big one where Robbie Anderson got by him. He had a step and, whatever. It happens. He had 4 pass breakups. Nothing was getting by him. I thought the pass breakup of Anderson in the end zone was one of the most impressive plays I've seen by a cornerback. Thank you, Raphael. Definitely like and subscribe, everybody. We love that when you do. The play on Robbie Anderson in the end zone, where Robbie Anderson got both hands on the ball and Mooney just came through, swiped through. He was phenomenal yesterday. And I just I don't want to be that guy, but I remember a lot of people complaining that his name wasn't 2 initials and a Jackson at the end, and that guy's low-key struggling in LA now.
No, he's not low-key struggling, but Amari Cooper did bake his ass with an incredible route. I don't know if you guys haven't seen it. Amari Cooper ran an immaculate route on J.C. Jackson, and I'm not gonna blame. See, look, when you downplay defensive backs, Eric Crocker immediately believes that you hate defensive backs. So I don't want to do that.
Oh, I love defensive backs. Eric Crocker is my favorite defensive back of all time.
So in the same thing, and Jets gang, absolutely false. Trevor Clears.
You got a Jets fan in here though? That's electric. I love
Trevor Clears, I fear. And also Jets gang. Another 4th place finish. Eat it, young man. You still not gonna make the playoffs in the AFC. But at the same time, J.C. Jackson got baked on a superior route by Amari Cooper. And that's, look, again, tip your cap. That's all. Trevon Diggs had to slide into the slot and play Cooper Kupp. Not just a slot guy. The best slot guy.
Yes.
And he gave up one play. All right, he gave up a deep play, but I'm not going to tell you sliding into the slot is a boundary guy. But yeah, Mooney Ward has been exactly what we thought it would be. And for all the people, I argue with people online. Oh, well, it's not Jair Alexander. You're talking about 1 year. Mooney Ward consistently has led the league per Next Gen Stats in tight window throws, separation. Oh, well, Jamar Chase cooked him in 1 game. Cool. Jamar Chase bakes many guys. He's very good at football. Yeah. So tell me, like Eric Crocker says, tell me that you don't like defensive backs without telling me that you don't like defensive backs.
Yeah. In that way. For what it's worth, I don't know how much stock you take into the passer rating against stat. Mooney Ward 69.7 passer rating against per PFF. J.C. Jackson 149 passer rating against. So that's the last I'll say about that. I love cornerbacks, so I saw Crocker's tweet on that. I thought that was really funny because it's very true, right? Like people talk about, you mentioned Mooney Ward against Jamar Chase. It's well, he stinks. He didn't cover a top 5 receiver well. Come on. What are we supposed to do here? Oh my God, he gave up 15 receptions to Justin Jefferson.
Right. So Justin Jefferson kills Jair Alexander, right, in a game when he faced, and y'all are like, well, Jair Alexander is the best in the league. Oh wait, is he? But if you're going by 1 game, sometimes it's okay to say you didn't do anything wrong. You're not bad at what you do. That guy was just better today. There's nothing wrong with saying that. And that's a lot of 49er fans after losses want to place the blame to their team. Sometimes, guys, it's okay to say that team was better. Yeah. He played better. It's okay. It's the league. That's why those guys get paid as well.
Last thing on the secondary, and obviously probably the most important thing, Emmanuel Mosley torn ACL. He is out for the season. It was I don't want to call it a fluke injury, but it was, high ball. He makes that play more times than he doesn't, land awkwardly. It's unfortunate. It's a big loss because we mentioned, like you talked about what we talked about with Kyle Matson last week, is having Jason Verrett as the third corner kind of limit his snap count, all that stuff, things like that. It feels good, but now it's kind of like last year where it was okay. First week it's Mosley and it's Verrett, and you hope Verrett stays healthy. Now it almost feels like it's Ward and Verrett. You hope Verrett stays healthy. And then after that, like if he doesn't, what do you do? I feel comfortable with Verrett stepping in, obviously health permitting. But I don't think we can overstate how big of a loss this is for the 49ers defense, because when we talk about how good this, because we had a whole ass conversation with Kyle Madsen last week about where this secondary lines up against past Niners secondaries. It wasn't just because of Mooney Ward. It was because of Emmanuel Mosley on the other side. So this is a huge loss for the 49ers, and it's one they're going to have to deal with.
Yeah, and you want to initially talk about the impact on the 49ers. I want to talk about the impact on the young man.
Mm-hmm.
An undrafted free agent who was playing out of his mind and was on his way to getting paid. Mm-hmm. And literally looking across and seeing Charvarius Ward take the same path as him, undrafted free agent who balled out and got a contract. This goes deeper than the loss of the 49ers. And I'm just gutted for the young man because I think a lot of people get it lost. And I said this on the post game, and people were like, well, Jason, you're acting like he died. He didn't die.
Obviously.
You're overcomplicating it, but you're underselling the rehab process, the mind state, all of those things, the money that he was about to get. I am absolutely gutted for Emmanuel Mosley, right? And the unfortunate part about all of this is you watch that injury. I felt terrible. I was sick to my stomach, right? Like, and when I found out that it was a torn ACL, it was on the post-game show, and my whole mood changed. But then you pivot to, okay, how does this team move forward? Because you have to, right? The NFL doesn't slow down for you, right? Because they're not like, oh, well, let's take it easy. They have injuries. Jason Verrett's not a bad pivot at all to like moving in this direction. So again, for the people that are like, why do they waste their time with Jason Verrett? Why do they waste their time? This is why. This is why. And this is why when I said this was the best defense you have seen since 94, whatever, 97, it's because of this depth. And Jimmy Ward hadn't played a game. And like, you have to understand that I am absolutely gutted for Emmanuel Mosley. Like, I'm sick to my stomach, man, because, again, undrafted free agent about to get the bag, but then you look to the 49ers side, oh, okay, we're going to pivot to a guy who in 2020 was a top 5 guy in almost every single position.
Yep.
It's not a bad spot to be in. And Jason Verrett doesn't even have to play in this Atlanta game. No. You want to throw Womack, you want to throw Ambry, you got it. You got it for this week. You got it. Drake London can only line up 1 or 2 places in this game. He can't be everywhere.
No Russell Gage anymore. None
right?
Of them.
No, like Zacchaeus is exactly striking fear into my heart. Yeah. But at the same time, you have to like sympathize and show empathy for Emmanuel Mosley while also looking at this team and saying, "Holy shit, they're this deep that they can pivot to Jason Verrett being there down the stretch." So look, you can still slowly put Jason Verrett out there and have him ready to go down the stretch. Can you bet on him being healthy for the end of the year? That's up to you, and that's a fair assessment. But it's not a bad pivot. It's not a bad pivot.
I guess the simplest way I could put it, because yes, I understand the past of his injuries, but he's healthy until he's not. And I'm just going to assume he's going to be able to stay healthy because he is. And that's the way I always look at injuries. I don't care about the past. We talked with Daka Narav about it, right? And he said, yeah, I don't believe there's specifically injury-prone players. So hey, maybe he stays healthy and we see. Last thing before we kind of start wrapping up, 3 stars, 1 point I want to make. Special teams, the last aspect, it wasn't great. You mentioned that the Niners defense gave up that touchdown to open the second half. 10 of the 15 Carolina points came after returns to midfield. The Niners also had a blocked field goal. And I guess the difference between last year and this year is that this wasn't something that cost them the game like we saw it cost them a couple times last year, specifically the game in Seattle. And this, I mean, I guess it's a good thing that it's week 5 and this is the first time we're talking about special team struggles. So I guess that's a step in the right direction as well. But the special teams is something to talk about. Robbie Gould is hurt. We don't know when he's coming back. Apparently, Mitch Wishnowsky, 4 years, doesn't know how to kick a football off the ground. So that's obviously not going to be the pivot. Why are you making that face?
Oh, why am I making that face? Well, 2 things. I was told the special teams unit would be improved. I haven't seen anything on kick returns, and now you got the kicker injured because let me not mince words. When your coverage unit is that bad that the kicker has to make 2 tackles, that's what's going to happen. Yeah. And
tackles are a nice word too, because like Robbie Gould had no interest in any of those.
But he slowed it down and he got it done.
And that's his job.
Right. But it never should come to that.
It never should come to that though. Yes, absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
And your 4th round kicker that you guys love so much, invested draft capital, can't kick an extra point, can't kick a field goal. If I were a general manager and I were taking a kicker in the 4th round, I would simply select a player that eliminates punter and kicker because there's no fucking reason to draft anybody that high unless they can do both. Okay. But at the same time, Robbie Gould not being there changes your play calling, changes the way that you look, and the way that you maneuver. Sure. I make jokes about, my local Trader Joe's, my local Walmart having a kicker that you can pick up. Mm-hmm. Joey Sly isn't walking through that door. He's apparently the Commander's kicker. So
Ariel saying Blankenship's available.
All right, Rodrigo, let's get
I'd be all in Rodrigo.
The goggles, man. I apologize to Robbie Gould, and I realize his importance because of how clutch he is. And unfortunately, the special teams unit took a step back, and they looked like the unit that was there from last year. Yeah. The same unit, the same exact unit. So, look, Mullet, Wishnowsky should practice field goals too. Here's the thing, Mullet. We were at training camp. I don't know if I'm going to make sure I step back so I don't peek. Special teams people don't practice because they're not football players. They don't get any moments to practice because they're not real football players, which is what I've literally been discussing. But yes, the Robbie Gould thing hurts.
Yes,
it does hurt. It hurts. And I hope that he's fine.
Yes.
I hope that he's fine.
They need him. He's a very important piece. I think he proved that last year in the playoffs. Yes. All right, 2 last things, just really quick before we get to 3 stars. We're almost at an hour. I see a lot of people in the chat saying, what do you think about the Rams getting better because of the Niners injuries and all that stuff? You're ignoring the pink elephant in the room that Matthew Stafford is hurt. I think nobody's talking about how serious
he is hurt.
Yes, I don't think anybody's talking how serious that injury is. Because Stafford's not himself. So before we talk about the Niners injuries, in regards to the Rams, let's talk about the Rams injuries. And we're not going to do that because we're not a Rams podcast. Last thing, Jason. This isn't a Panthers podcast, so I don't need to talk about the Matt Rule firing. We don't need to talk about it too much. But
hey, hold up.
I want to flex.
Matt Rule's all right. Matt Rule's all right. He's getting $840,000 per month for the next 4 years, right? Like he's got to make a 40 mil. Yeah, Matt Rule's okay. But
I just want to throw this out. I think it's a definition of irony. Go back in your time machine in your brain. Let's go to June when we're talking about Jimmy Garoppolo trade targets. And the rumor came out that the Carolina Panthers were looking at 2 quarterbacks, James Garoppolo, which we like to call him by that name, and Baker Mayfield. And Jason, I know I don't like to be the guy who says, hey, Jason, we were right. We said, yeah, Baker Mayfield might be the better quarterback. And this was in July. I don't know if that's necessarily true on October 10th right now. But we were saying that if you're the Panthers, you would rather go with Jimmy Garoppolo because Matt Rule is coaching for his job. and you have more trust in Jimmy Garoppolo than Baker Mayfield, I think that's a fact. I think that was a fact in July. I think that's a fact in October. Who beat the Panthers to get Matt Rule fired?
Jimmy Garoppolo. And look, there's much more to playing the quarterback position than what you do on the field.
Yes.
And Baker Mayfield is a very, 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 very immature young man. Very immature. Look, say what you want about Jimmy Garoppolo. For all of the noise about being replaced and drafting his quarterback, he never once said anything that was out of pocket, anything like that. It took 1 week of a Deshaun Watson rumor to Cleveland for Baker Mayfield to cry on 3 different podcasts, write an entire letter in his notes.
Yes.
Baker Mayfield is an incredibly not mature quarterback that I would not want around my team, because as soon as things get tough, like the Rams, they'll fold.
Perfect. So there it is. Jason, we're almost at an hour. 3 stars. 3 stars. You ready?
Let's do it.
3 stars. Number 3, Jimmy Garoppolo. For all the reasons we mentioned, I'm going to throw his name out there. He deserves all the credit he got. As I said, I get the numbers. They're fine. They're not the best, especially in 2022's NFL. But as I said, if you can get 18 for 30, 253, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers from James Garoppolo, you are winning significantly more games than you are not with how this roster is built. Jimmy Garoppolo, number 3 star.
3 stars. 3rd star, Tevin fucking Coleman. And that's it, man. Like, look, this is a league where you get very few opportunities, right? Mm-hmm. And many people casted Tevin Coleman off, right? He was sitting on the street, and everybody said, oh, well, Kyle's just running to his guys. Imagine being a guy that has been picked up off the street, had 1 snap the week before, and was asked to have significant snaps. Marlon Mack was inactive. Because this team looked at Tevin Coleman and said, you are about to contribute. Shout out to Tevin Coleman, man. It's you. I dislike Eminem's music, but you only get 1 shot. Do not miss your chance to blow. Tevin Coleman immediately lost himself in
Mom spaghetti.
There you go.
Number 2, Jeff frickin' Wilson. I think we've hit the limit of curse words. I'm gonna go Jeff Wilson.
No, we haven't. We could throw a few more.
Jeff Wilson, 17 carries, 120 yards, 1 touchdown. DJ Ramon, thank you very much for the donation. He's just consistent, man. That's all he is. The second week in a row where he's broken off a run of 30 plus. He didn't score on this one, but he got a 41-yard run. I didn't crunch the numbers, but when he's a starting running back, he averages like 80 yards a game. I'm going to go back and look at those numbers tonight to see what it was. I know I talked about it before week 2 when he kind of took over that starting job, but when he's a starting running back, he is pretty consistent, and that's literally all Kyle Shanahan asked for is consistency. That's all he wants out of running back. And Jeff Wilson, I don't know how much more consistent you can get than 7.1 yards per carry. So Jeff Wilson it is.
Yeah, I love that, and I would love to put Jeff Wilson in one of my stars. But since you have, shout out to Aaron Banks and Jake Brendel. This is going to be an Aaron Banks and Jake Brendel number two star, and the offensive line is cohesive right now, and they're moving in the right direction. I think that both of those guys have done a great job. I think that they have played very well. I think that a lot of people owe Aaron. If we're talking about who needs to be apologized to, Aaron Banks needs a bit of apology. And you know what? Jake Brendel, for all the intents and purposes, and we talked about, well, I don't know if he's going to be able to play well. Both of those guys have done well. I chose offensive line. Shout out to Brad Graham. I hope you're proud of me. But I hope you're proud of me for that. But both of those guys are my 2 stars.
Number 1 star for me is actually Brad Graham having Patrick Willis on his channel yesterday. Pretty cool.
Yes.
I would say.
Yo, shout out to Brad Graham, man.
Shout out Brad Graham.
Casually having Patrick Willis.
We're in a group chat with him. I didn't see anything on his timeline. And then yesterday I just see Brad Graham's live and his title's like Patrick Willis joins. I'm like, what? Yeah. Shout out Brad Graham, number 1 star.
And shout out to Jim Everett the Great. Appreciate you, man. And the Rams are down but not out. I agree with that. I definitely agree with
Yes, Rams are definitely down.
And right now we are only evaluating them as they have shown on tape for 5 weeks. That's all.
But as we said, also we're podcasters. We're allowed to overlook everybody.
And yes,
I'm
and
overlooking
also,
31 teams. I don't care, man.
And also Jim Everett. Yeah, the great. I can do whatever it is that I want to do. Like when it comes to that. But yeah.
My number one star. I mentioned it earlier. Mooney Ward. What a phenomenal performance. He has been worth every cent of that contract so far.
Overpaid,
quote unquote overpaid. Am I right? Almost more like underpaid. 4 pass breakups, 4 tight windows. He's led the league in tight windows since 2018. You mentioned the list of Jair Alexander, Ronald Darby, all on that. Mooney Ward's better than all of them. Give me Mooney Ward as my number one star. I loved him yesterday.
Incredible. Ready? My number one star. Ready? 3, 2, 1. James Richard Garoppolo.
Ooh, okay, I went 3. You went 1. I love it.
Look, buddy.
Look, wow.
I've been critical. I don't like it when you have those throws. But when you play well, I am sure as shit going to get on this show and say, you played well.
Yes.
Jimmy Garoppolo played very well. And I think the people that have a problem with saying that Jimmy Garoppolo haven't played well have an identity crisis, because you've built your identity and your social media presence and whatever it is that you do based on hating him. But if you can't look yourself in the mirror and say that Jimmy Garoppolo played great football on Sunday, you've got a bigger problem than Jimmy Garoppolo, my friend. And this is the Jimmy Garoppolo experience. There's literally a meme out there. Plays bad one week, completely, everybody calls for him to be benched. Plays well, everybody repeats the cycle. This is the experience. But Jimmy Garoppolo, if this is your last year here and this is it, because I sure shit don't want to see Brock Purdy play. Jimmy Garoppolo
yesterday.
Oh, great for him. -1 yards. Look at that already, losing the team yards on the knee.
Hey, for what it's worth, Garoppolo had 1 rush for -1 yards.
He did. But and also
Jimmy Wheels.
We were robbed of a Jimmy Wheels touchdown. And by the way, if you don't understand where Jimmy Wheels came from and you're just running with that, you better give me and Javi credit. We came up with that shit last year in Halloween in Chicago. There is no Jimmy Wheels nickname without me, Javier, bringing that up when we were in Chicago. But shout out to Jimmy Garoppolo, man. Keep balling like that, and the 49ers are a tough fucking out for any team, man. Keep playing like that, young man, because he is a young man. I'm much older than him. Keep playing like that, young man, and the 49ers are in good spot. If you can't say that Jimmy Garoppolo played a good game this week, you have a bigger problem than Jimmy Garoppolo playing well. That's it.
There it is. All right, guys. Thank you very much. It's been an hour longer episode today, but hey, good win. So there's a lot of good things to talk about. I had a not sober thought last night, and it was pretty fun because Niners played the Panthers yesterday, and then I watched the Mets lose. Wrestling tag team. You ready for this?
Go for it.
Tight end of the Carolina Panthers, Tommy Tremble, and famous the Edwin Diaz guy, Timmy Trumpet. Tommy Tremble, Timmy Trumpet. Like, how is that not a wrestling tag team?
Andrew Pasquini, as always.
Jason Aponte, as always.
Let's go Niners.
They don't ask how, they ask how many.
Welcome, everybody.
We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.
I am Andrew Pasquini.
We're working. That's it. We're working over here. That's it. Let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners.